Hey guys, just wanted to talk a little bit about the inner world versus the outer world, right? And obviously, the outer you pretty much know a lot about because that's where we are right now. I'm talking, and it's on the outer, right? And the same thing, we go through school and we learn all the stuff about the outer world, and very little bit of time is put ever into the inner world, right? Like where it is invisible, obviously, so people think is doesn't isn't real, doesn't really you shouldn't waste time being there and things like that, right? But you have to start being able to distinguish between the two and kind of like start understanding that the physical world is very temporary, right? And there's a lot of like differences to the laws that govern our lives, and a lot of like there's good things that are very joyous or whatever, and then there's a lot of bad things that happen too because there's polarities, right? Like if you go totally towards happiness, you're gonna have to experience sadness because you're jumping on one side really far, and then all of a sudden you have to get swung back so things could balance each other out, right? Like if everybody was super happy, then there would have to be a lot of sadness in another part, right? Like polarities. That's what that means, right? So you have to really notice this that the physical world has a lot of limitations, and it's not where your true self resides, okay? So that's the biggest thing, the biggest problem, because your life is always going to be like flip flop, just like a lot of just bad things happening to you, great things for a little bit, and then bad things, and you're always gonna go through shifts and like like a tornado is gonna come and hit you and grab you and twist you and all of this stuff, right? Like that's the physical world. It has to happen like that. So that's okay, and it's fun to play with form, but you have to really understand the inner world too. And we spend almost zero time in that area, right? So that's what I've been doing basically over my last 2 years. And it just like makes your life fun because you actually understand that that's not who you really are, right? And when you can actually connect into the inner world, that's where your true self is. And there is no like polarities or really rules about life, right? It's just that's your true nature and you're an infinite being there. But it's not as simple as it looks, right? Like you have to start sitting down and questioning your life and actually starting to find out who you truly are, because right now you have a lot of concepts that you believe from people, from society, everything, and you've never really just sat down and looked for yourself, right? Like what the internal world is. You just kind of like pray maybe a little bit. You went to religion class for a little bit, which people tell you all their beliefs, which is not. It's another thing. It's another aspect of the physical, right? Like your true self is infinite, and no one can show you this. They could tell you a little bit about it, but again, when they tell you stuff, it's just concepts. It's not the truth, right? So you have to experience it for yourself and actually sit down every day and start searching for your truth. And that's like, if you want to be truly happy in life, you have to touch base with the inner a lot of the day, okay? So when you're in interactions, you have to have some of your attention, not just in thoughts and whatever your future goals or whatever your you have on this physical, you have to have some attention on the inner because that's your true nature, right? So when something goes bad on the outer, if you're connected to the inner, it doesn't bother you because you know that's not you, right? And it doesn't make you, maybe it'll make you like a little sad, and that's on the outer. You experience those things, but then you're rooted into your true self, and it never harms you for long, right? Like you can really bounce out of it super fast compared to a person that's living all of their life on the physical. And guess what? When things kind of get broken or people die and stuff like that, it's like it affects them so much because that's all they know, right? So you have to start going internally and connecting to your true self so that you start becoming your real self, right? Not this just physical object that you've kind of like molded into who you think you are, but you're so much more than that, okay? So try and start giving yourself a couple minutes a day at least and just sitting peacefully and observing things without your mind getting involved too much. Just, and it is going to happen, but you have to just keep doing it and doing it and doing it until you get good at it, just like anything else in life, right? Like um, in sports or in school, you don't just pick up something and you're great at it, right? Like you work at it. So the same thing with the inner, and just try to start putting some time into that aspect of your life because that's the real aspect of it. And it probably makes sense to start doing that if you don't want to be miserable, okay? So guys, try to check that out. Leave me some comments, like this video, subscribe, and peace. Go inner, okay? That's where you really are.